I love the film American Beauty. It's fantastic. The film centers on Lester, the protagonist, his wife Carolyn, and his daughter Jane, who becomes romantically involved with Ricky, the guy next door. Lester becomes infatuated with Jane's best friend Angela, who is 16. Now, obviously, this is disgusting. It's sick for a grown man to lust after a teenager. But what I'm going to discuss in this video is something people rarely acknowledge. Angela eggs him on. Angela is not some innocent, scared young girl. She is fully aware that Lester is attracted to her and plays up to this for attention. And that is what this video is going to discuss. My name is Aruna Macha, and you're watching The Rational Female. If you enjoy my content, give the video a like and subscribe to my channel. When I was a teenager, a lot of the girls around me wanted attention from men, especially older men. They often spoke about men chatting them up in the street and seemed to enjoy this. In London, this was known as chirpsing. They wanted to dress for male attention. It was considered cool for a girl to receive attention from an older guy. I often felt very left out of this because I looked very young for my age and I was quite thin and still looked like a girl, even at 16. Several of the females in my life looked like young women, and they didn't see any problems with this. I actually explore this a bit in my young adult novel Around Midnight, which is about a girl named Megan who falls for the local bad boy Vince. A lot of teenage girls feel pressure to look more grown up because at that age, girls are going through puberty and their bodies are becoming ready to mate. Contrary to what feminists say, this isn't because of society reinforcing this. There's actually a biological reason to do with female mating strategies. There are even a ton of YouTube videos all over the place about younger women and older men. I don't think teenage girls are unaware of dressing for attention from the opposite sex. I think teenage girls are fully aware of what they are doing when they sometimes seek validation from older men. Such is the case with Angela. The first instance of Lester and Angela meeting is after the most famous scene where Angela and Jane perform with their school and Lester has a fantasy about Angela. Afterwards, Lester and his wife congratulate Jane on her performance and Lester talks to Angela, coming off as subtly attracted to her. Angela is not unsettled by this. She finds it flattering, and it would be different if she was clearly uncomfortable and didn't like it, but that is not the case. Later in the film, Angela comes over to Jane's house, constantly flirts with Lester, and makes jokes to Jane about the size of her dad's genitals. Angela is constantly bragging to Jane about the men she has been with and how she wants to be a model. Their friendship is not uncommon for a teenage girl's friendship, very shallow and dysfunctional. My favorite character in this film is actually Ricky, because he seems to be the only one who sees through the superficiality around him. His dad is abusive and homophobic, and his mother is unfortunately unwell. Ricky sells Lester cannabis, and Lester is inspired by his desire for Angela to start working out so he can look better. He quits his job and gets a job flipping burgers while smoking cannabis. Meanwhile, his wife starts having an affair with a wealthier, more successful real estate salesman. Towards the end of the movie, Lester and Angela are alone together and they interact romantically. Before they are about to become intimate, Angela tells him that she has never had sex before. Lester then stops. I don't condone his behavior at all. He is totally out of order, and it's at least good that he went no further. But why do we place all of the blame in this context on the man? It would be different if the girl was frightened or being coerced, as I'm sure is the case for many girls. Even I understand this from personal experience. However, there are times when the girl is also aware. I can think of other examples of teenage girls being directly sexual with older men in stories and not caring about this. In Trainspotting, Mark Renton, the protagonist, goes to a club and hooks up with a girl. The next morning, it is revealed that she is in school. Mark genuinely had no idea. She looks, acts, and dresses like a woman. She is actually 15 years old, and Renton is in his 20s. In On Beauty, one of my favorite novels, the main character Howard Belsey becomes infatuated with an 18-year-old girl named Victoria Kipps, who briefly dated Howard's son. He also just had an affair with another woman. Howard is not a good person. From what I remember, his wife, Kiki, doesn't come across as a nasty lady. She is said to be beautiful and motherly. But Victoria Kipps is also in the wrong. Because again, she is aware of Howard's attraction to her and she flirts with him, a married man who is, from what I remember, like in his 50s. He's definitely middle-aged. Quick spoiler. The two of them are sexually intimate towards the end of the story. I was very young when I read this and some stuff probably went over my head, but when I read it again as an adult, I saw just how sick the whole thing was. Fantastic book, by the way. What these examples are young women seeking validation from older men, which can reinforce problematic behavior. And feminists never talk about this because in their eyes, women are always the victims. Women can never be at fault. If girls are dressing and acting like young women and deliberately flirting with older men, we can't blame everything on the men. It doesn't absolve the men of their bad behavior at all. It just means we have to look at the female's part in this too. I have heard very mixed views on age gaps in dating. Some people are adamantly against the idea of any age gap over 3 years. Other people say that there is nothing wrong with an 18-year-old girl dating a man in his 30s. I think this topic is so complicated and it's tough to have a civil conversation about it considering what I've just discussed in this video. I honestly don't know how I feel about large age gaps in dating. I think there's a difference between myself, age 28, dating a man in his early 40s, and a 17-year-old girl dating a man in his mid-20s. Most men I have known in their 20s are not interested in teenage girls, and they'd find it very uncomfortable to be with one. I am a grown adult. I have life experience, sexual experience, and I've been in serious situations that a lot of 17-year-old girls haven't been in, or 17-year-old boys. When I was in my late teens, I was more emotionally immature because most people are at that age. I had very idealistic views of love and romance, and while I was still intelligent and self-aware, I lacked a certain maturity. So I'm not sure the idea of being with a man in his 30s or even 20s would have been a good idea. Of course, men the same age as you can be dangerous as well and can take advantage of women their own age. I understand that very well. One final point I'd like to make, slightly unrelated, is that with the rise of women in the workplace, more women can effectively leave their husbands or boyfriends for a better option or cheat on them with someone at work. This is another thing that society doesn't really condemn women for. Why is it that we are so harsh on men, yet let women get away with bad behavior? I'll leave that with you guys. Do let me know your thoughts on this below. For regular essays critiquing feminism, follow my Rational Female Substack. Link is available here or in the description below. To support the channel further, consider buying me a coffee via this link. Your support really helps me out a lot.